Well, hello, hello. This is Karin Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to LMP Music. Whatever the music, whatever the tune, we're here to learn, discuss, and promote the independent music scene. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes as Shugo Hanasaki tackles the music industry one artist at a time.
Welcome to the music side of Lotus Moon Productions. It's been a busy month for old Shugo with LMP over the past month. I've had the honor of speaking with Power Nerd, Nina, the Future Kids, and if that weren't enough, LMP has been sharing more and more wrestling podcasts as well. And that is correct. You did hear right. A quick shout out to Wrestling Rants that listeners can find on SoundCloud and YouTube. James, who is my co-host, and I discuss the wrestling scene. We're bringing on guests all over the world to discuss various promotions. So if you're a nutty wrestling fan like me, then be sure to check them out. But getting back to the music side of things, we're going to be speaking to another band from Aztec Records that I'm incredibly excited to speak to. Before releasing their debut EP, Somewhere in Between, they released two singles such as Casket and my personal favorite, Hours. With tracks as catchy and creative as that, and Aztec Records behind them, it seems the future is limitless for this duo. As mentioned on their social media, they're born out of the love for the 80s rock, electronica, vintage synths, and guitars. So without further ado, please help me welcome James and Tarina from Cymatica. How's it going today, guys?
Great.
Hey, Shugo. Yeah, great introduction. Thank you very much. We're good.
Thank you very much. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. So we're going to be diving into quite a lot. I mean, Somewhere in Between was your debut EP, and it's taken off. Like it's an incredible 5-track EP, and I absolutely love it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Now, before we dive into your music career, and trust me, with the debut EP, like I just said, Somewhere in Between, I can't wait to learn all about it. But right now, I'd love to dive into the past from both of your points of view. We can start with whomever, maybe ladies first. But what I'd like to know is, I'm sure that the audience would love to know too, is what artist motivated you or inspired you to make the music you're creating today, and why synth pop?
Well, we were both born in the 80s, so for me, I love the sound of synths because I love a lot of the 80s movies. They had that really good synth sound, so it takes me back to those days when I was growing up. And on the music side of it, I grew up with all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I love 80s music and a lot of one-hit wonders, but I also like bigger bands. Like I love Stevie Nicks. I like Pat Benatar.
Yes.
There's so many influences that I have. I can't pick just one. There's even, like getting closer to the category that we're in. I like Robin. Robots with Ray Guns. What else? I can't think of them right now. When I'm put on the spot, I can't really think of them. But there's quite a few. Like I got into synthwave about 10 years ago, so it's not that recent for me. I was just listening to it and then started writing to it. Like I'd find a piece of instrumental music and just do that in my downtime. Just write to somebody else's music just for fun, because I just loved it so much. And a lot of the synthwave that you find doesn't have vocals on it, so I found it fun to play around with that.
That's really, really cool, Tarina. I love that. And you mentioned Robots with Ray Guns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually planning on coming on the podcast next month, so that's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to be sitting down and chatting with them. So, look forward to that for sure.
They were my absolute favorite. So Robots with Ray Guns and Miami Nights 1984 were the first two synthwave groups that I ever listened to, and from there on I was hooked.
That's awesome. I love Miami Nights. They're a fantastic synthwave. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's one person or two or three or four, but whatever music they make is fantastic.
It is, yeah.
Now, what about you, James? With kind of the same question, what motivated you, what inspired you, and what brought you into synth pop?
Okay, well, I was an 80s kid as well. Well, still am. And the thing that always got me with the movies, it was 80s movies mainly. I just found just the sound of them, the sound of the soundtracks, really, really exciting. So it wasn't really the kind of thing. It was just something that you'd appreciate with a movie. Like you wouldn't kind of sit down and listen to a movie score or anything like that. So when I started listening to kind of synthwave and synth pop, it's typical story really. It's Drive. There's a lot of people have
Drive
said that as
soundtrack.
well. Yeah, the Drive soundtrack. I remember I went to go and see it at the cinema about probably when it came out, maybe it was 10 years ago, something like that. And I was just hooked from that moment on, really. So that kind of style of music. I started off playing blues guitar and things like that. Funnily enough, I'm usually a guitarist by trade. That's been my living for a long time. But then I got more into I just got more into synths, like especially over the past year. I think kind of guitar can be a little bit one-dimensional sometimes in terms of what you can do with it. Especially with blues, you got to kind of stick to a very kind of strict structure to it. Whereas with synths, there's just so many inspirational sounds and things, and it just opened up an entirely new world to me. So that's kind of how I started, really.
That's really cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, within synthwave and synth pop, there's nothing like a good guitar solo, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I still sneak the guitar in whenever I can, but I've been finding I've just been moving more and more towards synths recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, I try and fuse the two. I try and make it not sound on the music side of things. I try and make it not sound so a kind of fusion between an actual band playing and that kind of synthwave style. So there'll be like real drums, real guitar, real bass. So I try and kind of do a fusion between between the two, to kind of give it more of a kind of 80s feel. I do a lot of research into the equipment that was used back in the day. Like the old synths, the old drum machines and things like that. So a lot of research goes into the tracks before I actually do them, because I'm trying to kind of replicate that sound and just kind of just bring it into modern day.
Nice. Now, I think we've kind of already answered this question with everything that we just heard, but my next question was the creative process behind the project itself, because by my understanding, and I could be wrong, does Tarina do the vocals and you, James, do you compose the music?
Oh, yeah, that's not me singing.
Lyric.
You never
Yeah,
know.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, my jeans aren't that tight, so I can't get up that high. I usually it's a kind of two-stage process. It's kind of separate. Like I'll just start playing around. I'll get a riff in my head, usually inspired by the synths I'm using, be it like Moog or Roland or something like that, and I'll just build upon it. And a lot of the times it will just start with a particular synth sound and a particular riff, and it's very kind of organic in that respect. I'll just build on it and build on it. Some of them take a week, something like Hours, the track Hours. It took me, I think I wrote that in about a day, I think. Yeah, so.
And then he sends it to me, and if I think I can write to it, then I write the lyrics. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. Very, very straightforward. Yeah, we both live together as well, so there's none of this email to and fro. Sometimes if we're lazy and I'm downstairs and Tarina's upstairs, I'll WhatsApp her a track.
I remember back when I was a kid, it'd be like I get a text from my parents and I'd be upstairs and they'd be like, "It's supper time," and I'd be like, "You couldn't just tell me?"
Oh yeah.
Speaking of vocals too, I must admit, Tarina, you have a very, very incredible voice. Like, I absolutely love it. I mean, at what point in your life did you realize you wanted to become a vocalist?
I was 9.
You were 9. Wow.
Want me to elaborate?
Yeah, well, yeah,
9.
for sure. Yeah. Well, what brought all that on at 9 years old?
Well, I went into a talent competition when I was 9, and I won, I think, 2nd place. And my parents didn't know that I could sing, so they said, "You're going in voice lessons." And then from there, I basically just I took voice lessons on and off for a couple years, and I didn't do much with it. I went to college for completely different things other than music, and it wasn't until I hit 30, and then I joined a rock band, and we did a couple tours in Western Canada, and then I went out to the Middle East. That's where I met Jim, because we joined a band out there, and I was in about 5 to 7 bands in the Middle East, and like Bahrain, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and then we broke off. We did a duo, and then since the lockdown, we have been completely out of work, and that's how we moved into this project.
Yeah.
And we just started to do our own thing because live music is pretty much dead for the time being.
Yeah, the pandemic has been cruel on absolutely everyone, but at least Cymatica came out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Something good came out.
Yeah.
Now, how has joining Aztec Records gone? I mean, I imagine you both have learned some things from one of the top leading synthwave record companies around.
Oh yeah, definitely. With Ariel and Laura were our first kind of contact there. We speak with John occasionally. Like I think he works in PR. They've been really good. Usually with the kind of whole writing process, we'll shoot something over to them, and then Laura will give us a bit of feedback in terms of just little ideas, a bit like the way a producer would do. Of course, it's all done remotely. Everybody's kind of working in their own studio, so then she'll fire back some ideas towards me, and I'll kind of elaborate on that, incorporate it into the tracks. And Ariel is the next person who I send it to over at Aztec, and he's been awesome in terms of getting the mix right. He'll say, a little bit of bass needs being taken out of this and that, and he'll kind of get it all slick and polished before it goes out to production. So they work very, very hard. In terms of listening to the tracks and giving feedback and just getting it to be as good as it possibly can be before it goes to mastering. Yeah, they've been great.
I've had the privilege of having Lau on the podcast quite a few weeks ago, and it was just absolutely an honor to speak to her. And I've spoken to John quite a lot over Twitter, and what a nice guy. Like I don't have enough nice things to say about him. He's been so sweet to me.
Oh yeah, they've been awesome. I caught the Lau podcast actually with you.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I listened to it. It was interesting, kind of finding out about how Aztec started and everything. It's good to know a little bit of the history of the the record label. Very, very interesting. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much, and hopefully one day I can connect with Ariel as well, because I've heard a lot of good things from him as well, or about him.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're both all of them there. All the staff there. They've been awesome to work with, and it was really nice. This was our first EP, which it just, as Tarina said, I mean, it started off just as a project, which we've been meaning to do for a while. Like working outside of doing something original outside of our line of work, and it was just something to keep us from going mental, to be honest. During lockdown, and it just snowballed and just came into its own, and then was picked up by Aztec. But they've been really supportive, and they're a pleasure to work with.
Well, no matter how dark a situation is, I absolutely love when light shines through.
Oh yeah.
So as usual with my guests, we'll be sharing some track previews and diving into the background of each track. And I'd love to start off with your first single, Hours, which I mentioned before is my favorite track on the EP. Is it because of the lyrics? Is it because of the tune? Or is it because it was actually released on my birthday? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's so special about it, but it does have a special place in my heart. So I'm eager to share. So listeners, please enjoy a 45-second track preview of Hours from the debut EP, Somewhere in Between by Cymatica, and then we'll dive into it. Now, on Bandcamp, you explain that the track is about following your own path in life. For much of the world right now, lives are on pause, and it feels like time is being taken away. As daunting as this can be, continue to live your truth. Now, I love that message, but I'm sure it must have its own unique perception to the two of you. Do you think you could both expand on the background of that track and its meaning for the audience?
Well, I write the lyrics. So what I was basically feeling at the time was the lockdown, and I think we can both relate to that. And it just felt like, and it still kind of feels like, we're just wasting time. Yeah, it's just basically about how it's there's just so much time wasted, and feel like you're just kind of sitting here collecting hours.
Well, on the musical side of it, because everything, just especially last year, it was such a dark time, and I wanted to do something with all the time that we had. It was going to be an ideal opportunity to do some, to actually do some original music, because we were working on ships for about a year and a half. We were at sea for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned it before. We were in all over Europe, and when the pandemic kicked off, good old COVID, we were in the Caribbean. We had to come back. It was pretty much at the end of our contract. We were due to have a break for a couple of weeks and then go straight back out to Europe again. And then we found ourselves in sunny Newport, South Wales, where my family are. I decided I was going to take a little bit of time to kind of reconnect with my family, because been away for about 5 years over in the Middle East, India, and places like that with Serena. And so we found ourselves, we were renting a place in Newport, and just didn't know what to do. It was difficult getting work. The contracts were being cancelled and things like that. And the news and everything like that, it was pretty bleak. All in all, and it was like kind of worldwide thing. You couldn't, if you turned your TV on, it was just, kind of doom and gloom and stuff. And I wanted to write a record that just didn't reflect that. I wanted to kind of write something mainly, for myself, just as a kind of antidote to that, really. So I was doing much more upbeat, like I didn't really want to write a dark record, because it would have yeah, that's a point. But I didn't want to do anything to kind of compound the situation, so I decided to just write a really kind of upbeat track. Well, that one, it's quite kind of Madonna-esque, I think, if you can kind of put it that way. So it was the whole idea. It was just to kind of, it's kind of, screw that. I don't want to write like a dreary kind of depressing record. Just kind of add an insult to injury to everybody, So I wanted to do something, something positive, write something positive. And again, with that song, it started with I've got so many different synths and things, and this is how it starts. And I just started messing around on the keys with a new synth I just got, and I just found this sound on it, which it runs through the entire record, and that's just how it built up. It had a really kind of bright 80s vibe to it, and I just ran with it, and that's and I kind of really had the bit between my teeth with that track, and I think I finished it within from beginning to end in about probably about half a day, I think it was, something like that. It was just one of those ones where you're just really on the right path, and it just comes easy to you.
Oh yeah, one line there from the song itself, and I mean, I know I'm giving a lot of love to this song, but I can't help it. And I mean, again, I have to mention, I know it wasn't intended, but thank you for the birthday present. I blasted it all. I blasted a lot that day. I was like, oh my gosh, this song coming out on my birthday, I love it.
Put a little bow on the MP3. That one's for you.
Yeah, there you go. The one of the lines though in the track is like, am I not allowed the freedom of choice? All I can be is choice. And I just love those 3 lines. I love them.
Thank you. That's awesome. When you want to you want to go somewhere, you want to kind of steer your life in one particular direction, but you're just faced with walls all around you, and there's nothing you can do. Like that's basically the situation right now, where there's literally nothing you can do. So you're just collecting hours, but you so desperately want to crawl out of it and move in a direction. But there's just walls, and sort of that's kind of where I was going with that.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it really is. It speaks wonders about what's going on around the world. Even right now, I mean, things are slowly starting to get back to normal, or whatever normal can be.
Okay, all right, yeah, we're all still here wandering around in masks, like looking like ninjas. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's like the same as you over there. But yeah. Well, it's weird in the UK. I mean, it's kind of it gets pushed back and it gets pushed back.
Lockdowns.
Yeah, the lockdowns they keep on happening. I was saying it's a bit like the kind of you get somebody who's been kidnapped in a movie or something. It's like, okay, well, if the bad guy says, all right, if you do these things, then we'll let you go, and then the person does them for him, and then they say, no, you're not leaving yet. It's just been a year of that, pretty much here. It's the lockdowns. Yeah, we're still under them in Wales, but hopefully we're going to be getting out of them in the summer. But we got some good music out of it, so we've been doing a lot more writing since the EP was released.
It's almost like we're all living our own synthwave sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Global pandemic. Everybody has to wear masks. They got to be away from each other. We're shut down. It's kind of synthwavy, kind of sci-fi.
Yeah, I thought the apocalypse would be a lot cooler than this, to be fair. But hey ho,
Never have your expectations high.
No. Yeah.
I know it's early days with Cymatica right now, but are there plans to collaborate with any of the synth fam? And are there artists out there who would you both love to collaborate with?
There's somebody else on the label, Fulvio. I think his last name's Castanetto. So I'm collaborating with him right now because he was looking for somebody, a female vocalist, and he wanted to stick with the Aztec family. Sweet. So I responded to him, and he just sent me just a musical piece, and then I wrote lyrics to it. So I sent it back to him, and he likes it. Laura likes it. So he's just got to make a few musical changes to leave room for the vocals, and hopefully that'll be on his next single or album somewhere.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, sorry, Marvel 83 as well. I forgot about him.
Yeah, Tarina worked with Marvel as well. She collaborated with him last summer, I think it was.
Do you know Tarina. Marvel 83? You heard of him?
I do. Yeah, I've heard a little bit of their music, but not a lot.
Yeah, I did one song with him.
All right, well, the second track I'd love to dive into is the title track of the EP, Somewhere in Between. And then I'd love to chat about the background of the track. I mean, there's so much emotion behind this track as well. And the lyrics are just absolutely beautiful. Does that sound all right to you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, great.
Sweet. All right. Well, here's a 45-second clip of Somewhere in Between from Cymatica's debut EP. Now, getting back to Bandcamp once again, Somewhere in Between, you guys mentioned it comes from my own experience of losing people and being inundated with signs from the beyond. Even though we are limited visually in this dimension, there's plenty more at play out there. Now, that is a beautiful way of expressing music. But if I may, which one of you faced that experience? Because it says from my own experience. Was it from Trina's? Was it from Jane's? Was it from both? And how did the track and EP as a whole come together? I mean, we kind of touched on that with the pandemic.
Well, the same writing process happened. So Jim sent me just a clip of music, and I thought that I could write to it, and and that song was born. And yeah, it comes from my experience and probably a lot of other people, like anybody who's lost anyone. And there's been several signs from people that I've lost, like from beyond the grave. So that's why I wrote that one.
It's such a deep track. I mean, even just listening to it, it's just incredible. I mean, and the instrumental to it as well. Like if you just take out the lyrics, I mean, actually, speaking of instrumental as well, will Cymatica ever release like an instrumental side to Somewhere in Between? Because I know a lot of artists release an album and then they'll release the instrumental tracks with them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Aztec asked us for the instrumental versions as well. So yeah, they're all mixed down, all mastered. The originals is instrumental. It's a nice track actually. That one especially. Funnily enough, like I wrote that. Oh God, like knocking on 20 years ago, and the way that it started was back when I was playing in bands. I was playing in kind of heavier, heavier bands, and it was almost like a kind of pop punk track, really. That kind of started off, and so it was typical kind of two guitars, drums, and bass. A lot faster as well, probably like twice the speed of that track, and I wrote it. I wrote the music, and I walked away from it. And then when we started writing back in summer of last year, I just came back to it, and I thought I just kind of wondered what it would sound like, just slowed down, with a lot of synths on it, and that's kind of it. Just kind of grew from that, really. I kept the chord structure the same, lowered the tempo, and swapped out a lot of the instruments anyway. And then I thought, well, I'd really love a sax solo on this. So I did a little bit of scouting around online. And this is the awesome thing about technology and recording nowadays as well. It's gone so far. It's so far removed from having to use like 4-track or digital recorders or anything like that. You can collaborate with people all over the world. So I found a guy, a fantastic sax player who lives over in Texas, called Fabian Hernandez, and I sent him the track, and he's like a session musician for hire. So I sent him the track, and I said, just do whatever you want. He really liked it. I said, just do whatever you want on it. And about 3 days later, he came back with a bunch of different takes of the sax solo. And I just took the one that I liked, and just dragged it and dropped it into the track, and it just worked. So it was a kind of transatlantic kind of collaboration, really. And I just think the sax solo at the end, it really put the kind of the cherry on the cake, so to speak, really.
Real 80s too.
Yeah, real kind of 80s. I put a lot of reverb on it. Again, Laura and Ariel as well. Lau and Ariel, they gave me a few pointers to kind of get the track a bit more driven, and there we are. It was released. But yeah, that one I'm particularly proud of. Like I took a long time producing that, and also writing. I mean, it's if you look at the actual track, there's about 50 different instruments all layered in it.
I love it. The sax, I was actually going to mention that, so I'm really glad that you touched on that, because the sax solo at the end is magnificent. It's amazing, and I've told everybody that I love sax. I just love it. It adds such an element to any synthwave track. Like it doesn't matter. Like people might think, in 4 or 5, maybe even 10 years, it's like, oh, you're still using sax and synthwave. It's like, yeah, you're damn right, I'm still using sax and synthwave. it's so great. It adds a whole other element to it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's about as close, I think, anyway. It's about as close as an instrument can get to the human voice, in terms of expression and things like that, because you're using different breath. You got the the kind of distortion that comes from the raspiness of the reeds and things like that. It's pretty much like it's like, to me anyway, it just reminds me, it's as close as you can get to a singer without it being a singer.
Yeah, that's definitely a good shout for sure.
Yeah, and he absolutely nailed it on the takes as well. Like it was, he sent over 4, and it was a real tough decision to pick which one. Because I just said to him, just riff, for a minute over the track, and he did, and it was kind of fate finding him. Really, he was so good. I couldn't have wished for a better player on that track.
Now, the third and final track preview I wanted to share, and I was going to share Caskets, but then after listening to the EP quite a few more times, I was like, all right, this track we need to talk about just because of what you guys wrote on Bandcamp and how much it intrigues me. So the third and final track we're going to preview is Broken Toys, because the lyrics in that's I love it. I love how, well, either way, I'll get to it after we share the preview. So if that's okay with you two, can we share a preview with the audience?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. Here is a 45-second clip of Broken Toys by Cymatica off the debut EP, Somewhere in Between.
They'll be chasing your tails long after. Broken toys, while they smile and create distraction. Broken toys. Grasping at straws, the way from the surface.
Now, as I mentioned before the preview, the song itself, the lyrics, they intrigue me, especially with what you guys mentioned on Bandcamp. I mean, the track refers to how backwards the world is going, technology, politics, and media. I mean, examples of things are a bit broken, literally, in society, and some changes need to be made, and also metaphorically. So I thought this was an excellent topic to bring up because I couldn't agree more, and I thought it was a great track to end and things and talk about. And I would love to hear some examples of what inspired you both to write such an interesting track. I mean, I know, Tarina, you're the one that writes the lyrics, and James creates the music, but I'm sure you guys have very interesting views on the lyrics of this track.
I think that a lot of the lyrics that we wrote are kind of pertaining to everything that we've gone through in the last year with regards to the big people, the people people in power, people that get their paycheck regardless of anything, and the little people are just sort of left to rot. And it is a metaphor for not just that, but other things. I have to have the lyrics right in front of me to sort of go over them with a fine-tooth comb, but that's the gist of it. It seems to be broken. People don't really have each other's backs anymore, and technology is it's sort of it was good for a while, and then it's sort of moving into chaos now. That's what I think.
With mentioning technology, I feel it myself. It's so invasive nowadays. You can't do anything without, even when I don't want to go all conspiracy theorist on you, but with with algorithms and hearing things you say, and then if YouTube will grab it, Google will grab it, and it'll try to help you with ads, and ads are so invasive lately. And then when it comes to politics, it got to a point, and thankfully things changed a little bit over the past few months, but it got to a point where there was a person in power where it was literally, if you like this person, we hate you, we disown you, we're never going to talk to you again. And never in the history of anything should politics ever be about, if you agree with this person, we hate you, we think less of you, and the media just is always negative. So that's why Broken Toys stood out to me so much, and that's why I want to speak about it more instead of Caskets. I mean, Caskets is an incredible track. But James, what's your take on it?
On Broken Toys, or what you just mentioned?
Broken Toys and what I mentioned, on both.
Okay, well, Broken Toys. It was one of the first kind of synthwave tracks that uh, that I kind of sat down and properly, like, okay, well, I want this to be, I want this to be kind of good enough to be released. Whereas before, I was kind of, it was more of a hobby. I think like music, it's something that I've done since I was about 4 years old. And I've always played, I've always worked in music for some kind of, in one form or another. And Broken Toys, it was one of the first tracks where I sat down and actually, how can I put it? It was the first track off the EP that was written, and so I wanted it to be, a kind of opener for, for the other five. And again, I mean, with the music side of things, it was inspired by a few different people. Funnily enough, I mean, by Queen. Queen was one of them. On the track Radio Gaga, there's a kind of arpeggiated kind of old synth in it. So I put that in, and it's got kind of elements of the kind of Drive soundtrack. I can't remember the track off the top of my head. Is it Kavinsky? Kavinsky Night Call? Yeah,
Yes. I think it is Nightcall. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. So that kind of inspired me. And again, like, there's no real science to my writing. I mess around. I mess around like probably too much. Where again, I'll find a little riff or something, and I'll just build on that. But I wanted the tracks to kind of have a bit of, they call it kind of light and shade. I wanted kind of upbeat stuff, but then I wanted it to take the listener to somewhere else. And I didn't want, like, five tracks that were very kind of sounded similar to ours, had the same kind of energy. I wanted to do something. I wanted all the tracks to sound quite different. And in terms of where I wanted, the kind of more of a kind of laid back, low key kind of track, that's where Broken Toys came into play.
I love hearing these stories behind tracks. I know in a lot of my interviews with previous artists, this is just what we do. We listen to a few tracks, we dive into the background of them, and it might be the same question, but I get such different answers, and I love it. So thank you both for sharing, the background of all these tracks that we have shared today.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's nice kind of thinking out loud, really, because it was just something that's, speaking for myself, it was just something that I did. I've never really kind of picked the songs apart and kind of analyzed them. I'm kind of doing it on the fly, really. The motivation to do the tracks, to do the EP, was it was purely something to do, something to create, and also something that you actually had kind of control over, while you didn't have any kind of control over any other aspect of life. All the contracts that we had where we were working, that was all put on hold, and where we were living wasn't particularly a choice, so it was a case that you just had to do. All these things were kind of expected of you. You just had to just kind of adapt, and it was it was a little bit kind of out of control, really. And the thing is, with Cymatica, that's where kind of Cymatica was born, and that's where the EP was born. It was something that you could actually. It gave me purpose throughout the day, and that's basically it. It kind of gave me purpose. It gave me a bit of structure, and it was something. It was just an antidote to all the negativity that was around.
Now, with roughly 10 minutes left on the podcast, I've started discussing, who the artist is outside of their music. And I'd love to hear what both of your personal hobbies or interests are, like, outside of music. It could be whatever you want. Favorite food, TV shows, sports, even outdoor adventures, whatever things you're both into. So, I mean, we'll start with Tarina. What are some personal hobbies or favorite things of yours?
Right now.
Right now, it could be right now. It could be overall. It could be favorite food. Anything.
Favorite food. I have so many favorite foods, and I just happen to live with a very good cook.
Damn straight.
And because we've been sort of blocked in, during the lockdown, Jim's like just love. All he does is create music and download new synths every day. So before I wake up, and before I even have my coffee, he's got the headphones on me, listening to some new synth or some new track that he's got. And we eat very well because he's gotten into a love for cooking. I get out, I jog. I'm doing basically everything that I can do. I love to be outdoors all the time. I love hiking and stuff like that. But there's certain things that you just can't do right now because of the pandemic. Everything in Wales, we're on lockdown right now, so there's nothing really that we can do. And if you want to go outside, a lot of the time it's raining because it rains here a lot. So, but I do love the outdoors, and I would love to go camping if that was available to me. I would love to go camping, hiking. I love anything to do with music, concerts, outdoor concerts, fires. I love all kinds of music. Love lots of different foods. What else is there? That's a simple life.
What about you, James?
Well, before COVID kicked off, I loved traveling. I haven't done much of that over the past year. As I said, Tarina and I, we met in Dubai. So I got the travel bug about 6 years ago, playing in bands and things, like mainly in hotels. So that was a perk of the job. I got to travel and live in some amazing countries. The United Arab Emirates, India for a while as well. In the Caribbean and stuff. So traveling was the main thing. Experiencing new cultures and just moving around a lot. That's what I liked. I really enjoyed doing. Outside of that, guitar. That's something I've done since I was about 4 years old. So I still play now. Of course, it's on the record a lot. Even though I am moving on to synths more, I still play a lot of guitar. I do some just for fun. I kind of do movie scores and things like that.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, usually working with more kind of orchestral instruments or just fusing the two. I'll fuse more kind of synth stuff. Like modern instruments with kind of classical ones. Sound engineering, that's music's been pretty much the linchpin of my life since I was really, really young. So yeah, travel and music, those are my two main things. Since lockdown, I decided to get a new skill. One of them being music production, like working with Logic a lot more, and cooking. I do a lot of cooking because it kind of it fills up the day, because we're still, as Tarina said, we're still under lockdown now, so it's something to kind of something to do. So yeah,
I'm curious now about what food you make with being Chef James now.
Oh, so pretty much everything. What do I do?
Quiche.
Quiche today? I made a quiche today, and then a cinnamon cake. Like I'll just hop out the couch at about like 10 o'clock at night, and I'll just start baking cakes. Tarina thinks it's a midlife crisis. Yeah. So all sorts of stuff. Well, because something that was quite fun, because all the restaurants and takeout and everything is being kind of closed here, or you have to get it delivered. You can't just hop out to a restaurant or anything. I started recreating like fast food joint foods as well. I made with the Big Mac. I made the Big Mac.
I love Big Macs. I haven't had one in a whole year.
Yeah, that's it. So I started just kind of researching recipes online in between, like drooling over synths, and I started making like KFC and Popeyes and stuff like that. I've really got to stop now.
So what I'm hearing is that since you love travel, ours came out on my birthday. You love to cook. Yep. I love quiche and I love cake. It seems like you guys going to travel over to Canada and come spend some time with me, because I mean next birthday when I turn 32, cinnamon cake and a quiche and releasing new material, and you love to travel, so everybody wins.
We will be there one day. I'm Canadian, so he's gonna come. He's gonna come over with me.
Yeah, that's the long-term plan. We're gonna move back to Canada eventually over on the west coast. So yeah, we'll stop by. I'll bring you some homemade Cinnabons.
You know how far Nova Scotia is.
Yeah, like that's where I am, Nova Scotia. So yeah, that's hilarious. What's that, sorry?
I said my geography is a little bit off. You must be quite far. You're on the east side, aren't you?
Yep, way on the east. Yep.
All right. Well, if we get a layover, I'll pop around.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. All right, well, as we start to wrap things up, what is next for Cymatica? I mean, what does 2021 have in store? I know you mentioned the collaboration, and I know on February 3rd you told your fans on Facebook that you were back in the studio just 1 month after your debut EP. Can your listeners expect new singles, music videos, perhaps a live stream? I mean, I know I would definitely tune into that.
Absolutely. I actually did some lyric videos. I've already done some lyric videos. I've just got to post them. Actually, you've reminded me. I've done some lyric videos for, I think it's 3 of the 4 tracks off the EP. A lot of the artwork, the VJ loops in the lyric videos, they're all by a guy called Beeple. Have you heard of him?
I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. Well, Beeple, he does a lot of artwork, digital artwork for a lot of big names. In fact, have you heard of NFTs, like these digital artworks that are being sold online?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, look into that. It's fascinating. People are buying digital artwork now online, and his collection, it's sold for, I think it was $69 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's all right.
Yeah, he's all right indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the artwork and everything, it's free to use in the public domain, and he also gave us permission to. If you look at the front cover of the EP, somewhere in between, that's Beeple's artwork as well. And he actually gave us express permission to tweak that, and so I did a bit of Photoshop on that and stuff. So yeah, there are lyric videos coming. I'll post them. I'll post them over the weekend actually, and then stacks of new music. Ideally, the last release, because it was 5 tracks, so it was digital only. This time we actually want to, it would be nice to get something on vinyl, tape, and CD and things. So we're shooting for, and we're working on a 10-track album now as a follow-up, all new stuff.
Now, as a selfish fan, I have to ask, will there ever be an extended version of Somewhere in Between so that it can make it to vinyl? Because I would love to have Hours, Somewhere in Between, Broken Toys, Caskets. I would love to have them all on vinyl.
There is a 7-minute version of Somewhere in Between with a huge sax solo in it as well. It got cut down because we were trying to keep the tracks around about 4 minutes long, kind of radio friendly, and releasing something that was the same length as Stairway to Heaven, we couldn't do. But if we do a deluxe edition, then there'll be an extended version. Longer intro, longer middle 8, and really, really long, awesome sax solo by Fabian in that as well.
Oh, sweet! I'm super excited now. I can't wait. Consider it purchased.
Excellent.
And with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you so much, James and Trina, for spending this time with me. It was an absolute pleasure to speak to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been great to finally talk to you.
Absolutely. And can you share your social media with everyone so people know where to find your material?
Yeah, sure. Twitter, you can find us on Cymatica I think it's Cymatica 3 at Cymatica 3. Facebook is Cymatica Project, I think it is. I should have had these written down. I didn't know you were going to ask. I think it's either Cymatica Music or Cymatica Project on Facebook. And then if you just on YouTube, if you look up just Cymatica somewhere in between, you'll be able to find us there pretty easy, and on Bandcamp as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your socials. And as for ours, you can find us at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Instagram under Lotus M Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. And don't forget, we have a Spotify account now under LMP Music where you can find all of our music podcasts. This has been LMP Music. Please be safe. Please be kind to one another. And with that, we are signing off.